Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Tonight, emergency officials are monitoring water levels in the Chemung River as the area gets hit with heavy rain and warmer temperatures. Big Fox's Matt Kleindienst finds out what the flood risk could be.
Good evening, and parts of Chemung County are underneath a flood watch as warm weather warms the ice in the Chemung River, leading to the possibility of ice packing. Temperatures hovered around 50 degrees for most of the day, melting much of the snow in Elmira. This caused the County Emergency Management Office to focus their attention on the Chemung River.
The rain, the temperature, the snow melt, the runoff raises the river up and the streams, local streams.
Jeff Gray says the weather is likely to send melting ice flowing down the river, increasing the likelihood of flooding due to ice jams.
The ice can flow down to a hazard, sharp turn in the river, bridges, trees down and catch and form a dam-like device.
While the Emergency Management Office can't prevent ice breakups, they have been monitoring the Chemung River throughout the day. Ray says residents should also monitor the water levels in case there is some flooding.
If the water starts to rise and it's endangering their property, if it's going to endanger their home, they should evacuate the home. If the water gets out into the road surfaces, make sure that you use the typical saying, turn around, don't drown.
Gray adds that residents should notify authorities if flooding occurs in their area. Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Elmira.
Renovation grants are up for grabs for buildings along Bridge and Pulteney Street in Corning. This comes after the Gaffer District won over $250,000 from the New York Main Street program. The program provides funding to communities looking to revitalize their Main Street and downtown areas. The Gaffer District asks that applications be turned in by March 10th. N95 masks and rapid tests are being given away to Corning residents tomorrow afternoon. The City of Corning is distributing free COVID supplies to the community at the Corning Fire Department. The supplies come courtesy of the Steuben County Health Department. Residents can pick up their masks and tests starting at noon. Supplies are limited and will be given away on a first-come basis. The CDC facing pressure to ease its mask guidelines as more states roll back restrictions. Griff Jenkins has more.
The battle over mask mandates continues to unfold across the country. A growing number of Democratic governors are lifting restrictions. New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Connecticut will roll back statewide mask requirements in the coming weeks. But so far, the CDC is resisting calls to change its own guidelines.
We are assessing the most important factors based on where we are in the pandemic, and will soon put guidance in place that is relevant.
The CDC currently recommends people wear masks indoors in areas with high transmission rates. According to the agency's data, that's nearly every county in the U.S. But some medical experts argue it's time to move forward as new infections and hospitalizations continue their decline.
We're getting to a point now where the disease is beginning to behave as an endemic disease. And what that means is it's kind of part of the landscape, the same way influenza is every year.
As the Omicron surge subsides, a University of Washington model indicates more than 70% of Americans are, for now, immune to the variant. That could rise to 80% in the middle of March. But doctors say Omicron's impact on hospitals could last for a while.
We have had such a significant staff shortage during the pandemic. It's going to take a really long time for us to work our way out of it.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says the CDC will continue to modify its recommendations as infections decline, but added kids in school should continue wearing masks for now. At the White House, Griff Jenkins, Fox News.
NATO allies are accusing Russia of misleading the world, saying Moscow is not pulling back troops as they've said, but instead adding thousands more. Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with the latest.
Every indication we have is they're prepared to go into Ukraine, attack Ukraine.
President Biden sounded the alarm bells again as NATO allies and the U.S. say an additional 7,000 Russian troops have gathered at the Ukrainian border. Moscow is being accused of a disinformation campaign.
Despite Moscow's claims, we have seen no sign of withdrawal or de-escalation so far.
In Belarus, Russian military drills with heavy machinery continue. Thursday, the Secretary of State Antony Blinken delaying his trip to Munich to speak directly to the United Nations Security Council.
Our information indicates clearly that these forces, including ground troops, aircraft, ships, are preparing to launch an attack against Ukraine in the coming days.
Russia maintains they are not planning an invasion. Russian-backed separatists accuse the Ukrainian military of shelling in the east, hitting a kindergarten. Ukraine denies the report and says the rebels are doing the shelling themselves.
We've said for some time that the Russians might do something like this in order to justify a military conflict.
A senior State Department official said they are worried Russia will use a false flag as a pretext for invasion, saying this is, quote, perhaps the most perilous moment for peace and security since the end of the Cold War. Thursday, Russia sent their written proposal for discussion to the U.S. They have always wanted Ukraine barred from NATO, plus limits on military drills and missiles in Europe. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Organizers of the massive trucker protest in Canada say they're preparing for police to move in and clear out the area around Parliament Hill. Matt Finn has more from Ottawa.
It's a notice from the police to leave. Well, this is what we did with it.
The Freedom Convoy here in the Canadian capital is bracing for what could be a major crackdown by police on Thursday. A day earlier, law enforcement handed out these notices telling the truckers to leave immediately or face arrests and fines and other legal consequences. But most are dismissing the warning, pointing to the lack of heavy police presence, with some claiming tow truck drivers are on their side and would refuse to move the trucks.
We're not too worried about what's going to happen today. Everything that the police have said, I think, has been more smoke and gun show than actual actions.
The warning came just 2 days after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act for the first time in history, giving the government more power to end the blockade and punish the truckers. That move is being criticized by some lawmakers as an end run around Parliament, but government officials say they had no choice.
At the core of the movement is anger, animosity, and in far too many cases, violence. We're seeing it play at our borders, in front of our legislatures.
Meanwhile, south of the border, the White House says it's keeping a close eye on the events here, and Homeland Security is ready to step in if protest spreads to the U.S.
We are constantly assessing any impacts or any security impacts.
And here in the Capitol, there is the growing suspense of what a crackdown may look like as this fence is going up around Parliament Hill. In Ottawa, Canada, Matt Finn, Fox News.
Still ahead tonight, men and women in uniform are once again answering the call to serve, but this time it's in our nation's classrooms.
The governor called upon its Guard, both Air and Army, to step in and assist. You know, we're citizen soldiers, you know, we serve our community, and this is another way for us to help serve our community.
More on how these soldiers are helping during the teacher shortage.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Well, we've had a pretty active day today across much of the central and eastern part of the nation. This storm system bringing with it some severe weather, in fact, even down into the southern United States, even as far north as the Ohio River Valley. But for us, we've really just been dealing with the rain. Now, temperatures are going to be chilling down tonight, so anything that is wet will actually be icy tomorrow morning. So plan on an icy Friday morning commute. Our average overnight low is 17, and your sunrise tomorrow morning is at 6:58. Daytime highs really not warming up too much to 26. So we do have a flood watch thanks to all the rain that we've had today, and that will continue again tonight, but eventually changing over to some freezing rain and snow. All the rivers, streams, and creeks in low-lying areas could be dealing with some flood potential. Again, those temperatures will continue to fall, so a bit of a wintry mix develops, and then that icy morning commute, especially on overpasses, side roads, and then snow again here into Saturday. But Sunday, will be your drier, sunnier day of the weekend. So flood watches continue for all the counties shaded in green. That's until 7 p.m. Friday. In total, there could be some 1 to maybe 2-inch liquid amounts. Take a look at the forecast here. Friday, 1 a.m., we will continue to see rain, but eventually making that change over to some freezing rain, sleet, and then a little bit of snow. It's not really going to be adding up to too much in terms of snowfall, but eventually some sunshine. And then a clipper system dives in from the Great Lakes region. We will have some snow developing on Saturday. Again, maybe some minor accumulations with that. But total amounts of liquid yet through tomorrow could be upwards of maybe an inch, nearly 2 inches in a few spots. And again, a period of freezing rain and sleet tonight, so a minor coating of ice before that snow develops. And again, we're not talking about a ton of snow, especially to the south, maybe a ½ an inch or less, but maybe an inch or two as we get north of Corning and Elmira. So tonight dropping down to the lower and middle 20s. Again, whatever is wet now will be a little bit on the icy side. Tomorrow morning we'll just have some light snow and flurries through about that mid-morning time frame. But there are those overnight lows, again a little bit above average, and then you factor in the wind and it will feel more like the single digits and teens throughout the day tomorrow. The winds will be breezy, in fact, out of the northwest at 25 miles per hour. So again, feeling quite chilly throughout much of the day. As I mentioned, most of our light snow shower activity will be wrapping up right around the late morning or midday time period. Some sunshine develops as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures kind of hovering into the mid-20s for most of the day. Again, below average by almost 10 degrees. Heading into Saturday, here comes that clipper. Another chance of light snow. Sunday will be the pick day of the weekend, sunshine, and actually nearing that 40-degree mark, so that'll be nice. But the extended outlook into the end of the month, early March, does show that we'll be, again, below average in terms of temps. But how about that? More rain and snow into early next week.
It appears shoppers are shrugging off inflation. Retail sales for the month of January rose, but lawmakers on Capitol Hill are still concerned about rising prices hitting grocery stores and gas stations. Madeline Rivera has more from Washington.
It's a tough time to be a business owner. Many say they're struggling with the higher costs of supplies.
Seafood alone, 50%. Meat, 20% for us. Fillets, 100% increase.
But so far, higher prices haven't stopped people from spending money. In fact, a new report from the Commerce Department shows retail sales are up 3.8% from the month before. Online retailers saw the biggest gains, with furniture and automotive sales behind it. However, gas sales dropped 1.3% as the average cost of a gallon surges.
All the indications are pointing to higher inflation going forward.
Economists say booming demand is pushing against supply constraints, one reason why inflation is rising, and many don't know when exactly relief will come.
Retailers have worked very, very hard with their partners, suppliers, vendors to try to pass along those prices to customers that customers are looking for and can afford.
Inflation now a top political weapon for Republicans in the midterm elections, despite arguments from Democrats that the economy is booming.
We can do our part by stopping spending like we were drunken sailors.
The economy created 6.7 million jobs, the strongest year of job growth on record. We're obviously going to continue to build on this progress.
The Biden administration says it will likely need $30 billion in COVID-19 funding. But Republicans who are already worried about government spending have raised concerns about approving new money. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
National Guard troops are proving they're always ready to answer the call, even if it takes them back to school. Ashley Stromier has more on how these soldiers are helping during the teacher shortage.
I'm
not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous because, a man in a uniform, but it was cool.
It's back to the classroom for dozens of New Mexico's National Guard troops as the men and women in uniform trade in mission briefs for lesson plans.
The governor called upon its Guard, both Air and Army, to step in and assist. We're citizen soldiers. We serve our community, and this is another way for us to help serve our community.
Soldiers are at the head of the class in 36 of New Mexico's 89 school districts, helping to fill much-needed substitute positions as many full-time teachers quarantine after testing positive for COVID-19. While the plan enforced by Governor Grisham has kept students engaged and inside the classroom, some educators argue sourcing substitute teachers from different fields is not helpful.
Having individuals in the classroom
who have other duties and responsibilities outside of working with students, during some of these, difficult times, it doesn't help learning.
But the soldiers called to serve say they are willing and able after receiving the appropriate training.
I personally already had my certificates, which just kind of sped things along for me. But the other guardsmen, Air and Army, had to take classes and get certified and then have briefs.
The shortage in educators spans much farther than just New Mexico. A recent jobs report claims there are nearly 600,000 school employee positions open nationally. Ashley Strohmeyer.
Congress is considering a law making the internet a safer place for children. A bipartisan bill has been announced that would hold social media companies responsible for harm they cause to children. The bill, put forth by Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal and Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, would also require tech companies to provide assessments on how their algorithms may contribute to harming minors. Now, this comes after multiple congressional hearings last year into the effects social media has on the welfare of children and teens. A home building industry leader is warning about a spike in new home prices. National Association of Home Builders CEO Jerry Howard is sounding alarm bells about volatile lumber prices causing a dire scenario. And Howard says new single-family home prices have increased as much as $18,600. Howard cites supply chain problems, the lack of transportation to get lumber to building sites, and a trade war with Canada on lumber as factors. He says the Biden administration needs to ensure a supply of lumber. Farmers in California expressing concern following the U.S. suspension of avocado imports from Mexico. Some are now worried about the economic impact this could have if the issue isn't resolved in a timely manner. Misha DeBono has more.
There isn't really a reason to panic. People shouldn't be worried because avocados are still flowing.
But it is uncharted territory. For the first time since 1997, when the United States lifted a ban on avocados from certain areas of Mexico, the U.S. government has suspended all imports until further notice.
You know, we hear that there's a potential that an inspector's life was threatened, or, a conversation got really heated where there was some very serious concerns. That's a concern to all growers. We want everyone to be safe, and we want the process to go smoothly, and we want a stable market.
Most of the avocados consumed in the United States, that's about 2 million pounds a year, comes from Mexico, with the more seasonal crop, about 300 to 400,000 pounds, coming from California. For growers like Ben Holtz of California Avocados Direct, he says they can manage for 3 or 4 weeks, but after that, it's an unknown.
We don't want avocados to double in price overnight. Nobody wants that. The stores don't want it, growers don't want it. We want a stable market, and we want to have a steady supply.
Holtz says he saw a little blip in business over the weekend, and already the price per carton has gone up by about $1 on the wholesale market. That only equates to about a penny per avocado for the consumer.
If they can resolve it in 7, 12 days, consumer won't really see it in the grocery stores. You won't have empty shelves. There will still be avocados. But if it does go longer, if it goes up to 3 to 4 weeks, then there'll be more pressure saying, hey, now our supplies are really low here.
Farmer Ben's sources telling him they expect the issue to be resolved this week, with trucks rolling across the border once again by the end of the week. From Valley Center, Misha DeBono.
It's been a rough start to the year for the airline industry as poor passenger behavior continues. The FAA has received hundreds of reports of unruly passenger behavior just a few weeks into the new year. A majority of the reports have been related to face masks. So far, the FAA has opened 123 investigations as Republicans in Congress push back against a federal no-fly list for violent passengers. Airline executives have been lobbying Congress for a universal list to prevent wrongdoers from causing trouble on one airline and then using another when they're banned. Credit card debt soared in late 2021, and people moved purchases onto cards for several key reasons. A New York Fed report says credit card balances increased $52 billion in the last 3 months of 2021, with Americans having a total of $860 billion on their cards. It's the largest quarterly increase in 22 years. Some reasons include inflation hiking costs of food and gas, and accumulated stimulus check savings caused Americans to purchase more. The good news? People are paying off balances. Only 3.2% of card debt went more than 90 days past due. We want to leave you with a smile. A couple tied the knot in the metaverse. A law group says it helped perform the first digital identity marriage in the metaverse. Ryan and Candace Hurley of Phoenix got married digitally in Decentraland. The ceremony was performed by a Supreme Court justice officiating and attended by witnesses and about 2,000 guests. The law group says there's no current legal framework for such a marriage, and the binding nature may be a matter of contract. The law group made a virtual premarital agreement to create a marriage framework. Very interesting. From our whole team, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great day.